Okay, good morning. Oh, good afternoon. We have the great pleasure of presenting the TV series called La Fortuna, which is in the official section of this edition of the San Sebastian Film Festival out of competition. We have the director, Alejandro Amenábar, actors, Manolo Solo, Tania Miller, Alvaro Mil, Stanley Tucci, Ana Polvorosa. And we have, down here, we've got the producers, Domingo Corral and Fernando Boveda. I imagine there are many, many questions for the cast and the director, so let's get to the questions. Hi, I'm over here. I would like to ask you in general for everyone, but more specifically for the director, what's it like to direct and to shoot in two languages, whether there's any confusion, if everyone's bilingual or not, or what language do you speak to them in the same language that they understand or not? Well, well, the truth is that for me, when there's the will of wanting to communicate, things work well. It's much more difficult when you're not using your mother tongue as a director because it's more difficult because you need to give nuances. It's much more difficult to instruct actors when it's not your mother tongue. But when there's the will of understanding, I don't know what the case is with each of the actors or the cast.
But I didn't hear the last part.
Yes, whether it's easy or not. How about you, the cast?
Understood a word he said. No, he was great. He speaks English very well, and obviously he speaks Spanish pretty well too. So you made it very easy for me. Your English is right, didn't you find that?
No, absolutely.
I had no problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We understood you. And not only in what you said, but perhaps the looks that you gave, like, after Gutta. Oh.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's a good job.
Bueno, yo he rodado.
I shot in English and in Spanish, and with Alejandro, I understood him much better in Spanish. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. First question for Mr. Amena, but if I'm not mistaken, it's your first TV series that you've directed. And what principles have you used, and how have you felt, really? Because the great directors normally take a while to do this, because now we're going through a boom of TV series, and I would like for you to tell us your experience. How did you feel using this platform and format? And the other question is for Tania Miller and for Stanley Tucci. What was the experience, or your first adventure, European underwater adventure? How did you get along with all of that? I think the phenomenon of directors, film directors that do TV and vice versa, is nothing new. So other directors have already done this. This has been done in Spain, the recent case, for example, of Mario Camus, who passed away, who went from films to TV and specifically to miniseries, directing miniseries. In my case, the moment we undertook that the perfect format to tell this story was a TV series, I understood the basic, I would have to have episodes and they have to stand up on their own, each of the episodes. They had to have good cliffhangers at the end, to maintain the attention of the audience. But shooting the film, all of the episodes, the process was identical as that of making a normal feature film. So, Mr. Tucci, and for you, Tania, what did you think of working, about your experience of being underwater, this underwater adventure? What was that like?
Luckily, I wasn't actually ever underwater, so that was good, because I'm not a swimmer. But I had a great time making it. I had wanted to work with him when I saw a movie that he had made a long time ago, and I fell in love with it. And I was very excited to be asked to play this, because I liked the role. It was an ambiguous character, to say the least. And I liked now this format. I think it's a kind of wonderful format that this phase that we've entered into in show business, which is the 4-part, 6-part episodes. It gives people a lot more time to create rich characters and to tell stories with a little more latitude and depth. And this was a wonderful experience for me.
I mean, just to jump on the back of what you said, I think that the fact that we're now doing 4-part, 6-part series, yes, the audience has a chance to invest, but in somehow, I think TV is elevated. The standards, when you watch La Fortuna, it's like watching a feature film. It's so beautifully, incredibly shot. And I think it's a real gift to be able to tell true stories. They don't always come our way, They don't often come our way. So to be able to tell a story that is reflective of something an event that actually happened, that's a precious gift in and of itself. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to answer the question.
Hola.
Oh, hi, here we go. Hello, everyone. My question was for Alejandro, and that's about the music, because this series you worked with Roque Baños, and I'd like to ask you, how did you create that sound and the ideal atmosphere for the series, and whether there's a big difference when you've composed 2 soundtracks, and how do you decide what it's like? Did you want to use to compose the score, or get someone from abroad? Well, music, it goes back to when I was a childhood. I love film music. I would buy soundtracks all the time, and I'd like to make the music for the small stories that I used to write. And then I did shorts, and quite naturally, José Luis Cuerda proposed that the music of my first film, I'd do it myself, albeit I hadn't even addressed the issue. But in that way, I evolved. I started to improve, I believe, as a musician. And then more than once, I've done the music of my films. But in the case of this series, I'd already worked with Roque beforehand. I think he did excellent work in Regression. With Roque, I understand myself. We get along, we understand each other perfectly, and he allows you to see his creative process, and this is something that I learned a lot from. And Mientras Dura la Guerra, the film, I believed I had to do the soundtrack, because if I got too far away from the music as a composer at the end, I would end up abandoning it. So therefore, I was going to give myself an opportunity and do the soundtrack for the film. But in this case, I owed it to Roque to give the opportunity of both of us working together. And I think he did an extraordinary job. It allowed me to see his process, to witness it, and we've addressed the film. It's a lot of work behind it. He spent more than 1 year working so that the music is quite specific to the scenes and supports every one of the scenes in the series. I think the job he's done has been very good.
The series appears to frame a culture clash debate between 2 visions of the world, one which emphasizes individual gain, and another which prioritizes the communal experience of shared culture. Answering that question, Clark Peters' character suggests in the series will explain what kind of society America is. I would like to ask then an expat American, Mr. Tucci, if he feels that this debate is a vital debate in America. In other words, I suspect there are quite a lot of Frank Wildes, Mr. Tucci's character, but are there a lot of Clark Peters' character in America?
Yes, I think there are a lot of Clark Peter characters in America. And I think they also exist in other countries. I think this is a dilemma in every country, and always has been, since the discovery of of capitalism. So I think that it's an issue that I think particularly nowadays, it's very evident that things are more extreme than ever. And that no matter what country, we need to look at we need to address the common good in that country, but now we need to do it globally. So I think that both of those characters exist in every country. We saw where America was heading 4 years ago. Hopefully with this administration, it's heading in another direction, in a more inclusive and in a direction that is a healthier direction for the environment and for not only America but for the world, and that's something that we have to. I think the problem is now it has to all happen very quickly, and we know that, and we're at the 11th hour. So I think, to answer your question, I'm sorry it's a little long-winded, but I think that both of those people exist in every society, not just America.
Hola.
Hi, a question for Alejandro Amenábar. In the film, a bit related to this one, you also talk about the identity, Spanish identity and Spanish culture is addressed. I would like you to talk about this and whether you believe that it responds to an inferiority complex of Spanish people, this desire of reivindicating it. Well, okay, the story happens in two worlds, the North American world and the so-called Latin Mediterranean Spanish world. And I wanted to work with that contrast because it was an opportunity, albeit it's an international project, but the idea was to give some brushstrokes about these two cultures. In the case of Spain, the hero of the story, the heroes are civil servants. And we wanted to show how sometimes anonymous people, obviously this was already in the comic, anonymous people from the institutions that have a lot of problems and lack a lot of things, but they struggle in favor of what is correct, and things turn out well. And it might sound patriotic, but I hope I'm in the good sense of the word. I think that in this case, for example, values highlights a series of people that do things well, and in this case, it's done from Spain. It could have been from any other country as well, obviously. Over at the back here from Catalonia Radio. As regards along the lines of what my colleague from Variety, Alejandro, could you talk about that duality? If at any time did you, or do you always know who are the good guys in the series or not? Or did you want to play with that sort of ambiguity? I don't know whether you're in favor of whoever finds the money or the coins keeps them. Whether the good guys are the good guys and the bad guys are the guys, or did you want to work with that duality? Well, in the specific case of the character portrayed by Stanley, I think that Stanley and I agreed upon that. He's a character that we worked with ambiguity because he's ambiguous. His character is ambiguous. He's very relaxed. He's very educated. He's got a certain charisma that gains the confidence of the person who's in front of him. But as the series went on, you start to realize he only obeys to his own. He's only worried about his own interests and his own egoism. So, and in general, I like not only to talk about characters, but I talk about the two cultures that I mentioned before, the North American and the Spanish culture. I want to talk about lights and shadows, for example, of the portraying Spaniards, and not criticize the North American world, but the two characters that Stanley Tucci and Clark Peters portray, you're seeing the individual interest and egotistic interest, and another person, on the other hand, who's reasonable, honest, and who thinks about the common good and believes that things should be done with honesty. When Clark Peters, for example, had, addressed his character, approached his character, he said, "This is the America that I would like for it to exist. This is the America that I would like to represent." I'm not too sure whether that was what you asked me, but more or less. And along the lines of that way of thinking, I was very interested in listening to the actors who are here, especially the Spanish actors, because of the idea of how there are certain archetypes that appear in Paco Roca's comics, which are much more, like, for example, the case played by Alvaro, who is a bit more conservative, Ana Polverosa's character, who's opening up, for example, and Manolo Solo, for example, and or Carra Erejalde as the Minister for Culture, or whatever that is. So therefore, I'm not too sure whether a Minister for Culture, he means. What was the process and how you approached your characters? I think he's talking to all the Spanish characters. Carra, you answer last, okay? There's no time, because if you start, you'll never finish. That's what he's trying to say. But I'll answer last if someone answers first. Okay, well, as regards how I approached my character, there was obviously a casting process, and it is true that once it was inspired, I knew it was inspired on Paco Roca's comic. Well, I studied it time and time again, umpteenth times, and I also believe that I've got certain similarities with Alejandro Ventura, and it's also true that we had to work upon those little things that I don't have and he does. So therefore, it was quite easy because I believe with Alejandro, as you know, he makes things easy. And I think the preparation was, at the end of the day, what was it, 6 or 7 months preparing for the character. Yeah, we had COVID in the middle, yes, but they did have time to prepare in his case. Well, we read the script, we worked as a team to see how each character flowed and how it was, and the link between Alex and Lucia on the screen, our characters. In the case of Lucia, well, at the end of the day, she's a girl that has a lot of passion for what she does. She gives it her all with a lot of love and dedication, and she wants to achieve whatever she's seeking to achieve. And she finds all of a sudden Alex turns up, and it's the perfect moment to go and visit the Minister for Culture, and so that we can achieve something or get something from him, or to continue with that movement. And I think that from there, from that passion, from that energy, from that vitality that Lucia has, with many other details, and adding to her character in the comic, well, we worked as a team, I think. The idea was to give both characters, and this is a contribution as regards to the comic, to give them that ideological standpoint, which I believed was quite interesting, to reinforce the idea, which was also in the seed of the project. I believe in mixture. I believe in I don't think it's good that everyone should be entrenched in their own compartments or in our little bubble. And I wanted to play with two characters that fell in love with opposite political ideas. This is something that we see day to day, and we see it in the world of politics, and I wanted to reflect that in the series as well. And I would like to add how that link that both characters have, and all of a sudden they find their counterparts in front of them, and there's a great struggle to get to know themselves internally, thanks to having met the other character. That's the beautiful thing, that link and nexus that they have, and how they end up taking charge of trying to deal with the prejudices they had before they met. It's not only political ideas, but it's the ways of being and ways of thinking. In any field, I think the fact that we're looking, it's a common objective, that we have a common goal, or to end with piracy, for example, the issue of piracy. And it's a give and take between Alex and Lucia. I think it constructs that relationship very well. Well, okay, Carra told me this morning that Susan Sarandon had said on an occasion that when she was offered a role, she read the script and she tried to imagine the film without that character, and if the film could be made without that character, she rejected it. If that character was necessary, she accepted the project. This character is a small character, but I believe is of fundamental importance for the story to work. I like the character very much. I got involved in this project when I'd already read the comic that I liked very much, and the script, I like the script even more because the character has suffered, in the good sense of the word, a transformation. And for me, what it meant for me was, first of all, it was a surprise, a great joy and an honor to be able to work with Alejandro, and also a sort of closing the circle, so to speak, in a certain sense, because I feel that I'm very far away from the character that I portray in the character's ideology and features and personality. And there was one thing, is that we were from the same place, exactly from the same place. That is, from where the house of my character, I could see the place where I was born. My mother would come along on to set to bother Alejandro while he was working. I said, "Mum, stop it! He's trying to work. We're trying to do something here and work." And for me, that was, I don't know, it was quite a powerful energy. A character is far away from me, but it's very well written, the character, and I tried to make the grade. And I can tell you that I had a great time. I enjoyed myself enormously. Cara, your turn. Okay, my turn now. Well, when I ask for a roast chicken, I never ask the person who's going to give it to me whether he's whether he's a racist or whether he's a right wing or whether he's left wing. Everyone wears the same suit and everyone wears. So therefore, I thought I had to forget all about that. And all of a sudden, I said I had 5 or 6 sequences in English, and my concern was a great concern because I don't even know how to speak English, so I did it phonetically. So he's a guy who's a writer and who believes that he's chosen as Minister for Culture because he can contribute something to the culture of this country. He loves the golden era, and other countries have less years of history, but we're from the 1st century. From the Neanderthal, we go way back into the prehistoric era, and that's what I believe. So, but they've got him. What they've got him is walking around with Chinese tourists and do this and do that, and he wants to get over that so he can take the luxury of inventing the fact that the little fish eats the big fish, and if they throw me out, all the best, because what I want to do is to be a writer. And that's my character. And then with the great help of Alejandro, that with very few details allows you to go down the right path. Well, we did what we could. Long live Euskadi, the Basque Country. And there you go. Enough said. Hi. This is for Alejandro. I'd like to know, how did you select the cast and the actors and actresses for the film? What do you base yourself upon when you choose your actors? And what would you say to actors who want to have the opportunity of working with you? What would you say to them? Well, okay, the truth is the person that manages this issue and who is very, very good is Eva Yolanda from Spain, Dina J from the UK, with whom I've been working several years now. And from those 2 places, we thought about the cast, and the audition of Alvaro for me was an immediate decision. As soon as I saw him, I knew that he was there to portray, he was a person that had to portray this character. Anna the same, when I saw her audition, I thought she was perfect. And in the case of, on the English side of things, Gina proposed. The proposals always come from my casting directors. She proposed Stanley, Antonia, and Clark, and so we had the great fortune. You don't know to what extent material or a script is going to cause, well, the actor wanting to get involved, because you can propose an actor or an actress, but paradoxically they don't want that character. But the good fortune we had was very early on they said yes, and I put my trust in my colleagues, my casting directors. What would I say to a person who wants to work with me? Well, draw the attention of my casting directors. What can I say? Sorry, we can't hear the question without a microphone. Okay, here we go. The question, for Tania Miller, you've portrayed characters that have moved me. For example, the Curse of Blame Manor, I think she said. And now in Spanish industry, what drew your attention to choose this character? And do you feel highly identified with the character? Or what does this character have of you?
Identify with her at all. She's horrible. She's a complete shark. I guess there's got to be a little bit of me in that, right? To some respect, that like Susan, I'm quite determined. But actually, there was a mixture of things. So the script came, and like I said, it's a true story. So tick, Alejandro Amenabar, tick, and to work with these great people again. So, and to come to Spain, like why not? Why wouldn't you do that? So I think in that respect, those are the things that drew me. What was the rest of the question? I forgot it already. Was that it? Did I answer it?
Sí, ¿cuánto tiene?
How much of you is in the character? That is to say, what made you feel identified with the character and to say yes at the end of the day to this character? What drew you to it?
Well, one, because it's based on a true story, and I think that Susan's a lot of fun for an actor to play because she is ruthless, and you know, we're not ruthless in our true lives, in our own lives, and because she had balls, and again, working with these great people was what attracted me to the role. I don't identify with her particularly, other than we're both very focused and determined people. That's where it starts and stops.
Me gustaría puntualizar que
I would like to point out that Tania has already said that it's based upon true events, and the script is, but obviously we have based ourselves on the comic, which is inspired on a true story. But when preparing the characters, we decided to fly freely. We didn't want to be conditioned by the real characters, so therefore the characters are completely fictitious.
Buenas tardes.
Hi, good afternoon. For the director, Alejandro Amenabar, I'd like to know, bearing in mind the political background and that this situation and what took place at that time, I would like to know, when you gathered information or researched it, whether you only based yourself on the comic or whether you sought documentation information otherwise. Was it easy for you, or did you encounter difficulties? I said that the path, when you decide to adapt a true story. I have done films based or inspired, stories based like Mar Adentro, or my previous film, While the War Lasts, for example, Mientras dure la guerra. But when you have to adapt a comic like this, you've got to decide, take two paths. It's either you go to stick to the true events, or let go of them. We didn't want to have any contact or any reference with any real cases. Well, I did document myself and research several cases vis-a-vis legislation as regards this issue, but we had no intention of our story being stuck really closely to any of the true events. We did have everything that has to do with sailing and how they communicated between ships. We wanted that to ring true during the minutes that segment and those scenes last. Okay, so unfortunately we have to stop the press conference here. A big round of applause for the cast and director and producer. Thank you very much. Thank you.